Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Welcome back to the roast. And all guests appear on the Bud Light guest line. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. A lot of things happening in the NBA. We're going to talk about the state of the Golden State Warriors, the state of the 49ers in a little bit here with the great Tim Kawakami, who's been in this market for so long.
Legend.
I didn't know. I found this out. I've been doing TK how many years now? 6 or something like that?
Something like
I always
that.
joke with him. I was like, every time it's like, yo, TK, you followed UCLA? You covered the Bruins when they won the 95 championship? Wait, you covered the Lakers? Wait, you covered Buddy Ryan and the Eagles? How do you just glob onto these championship-type rosters?
That has been a little joke with my family. Like, I go cover something happens. Like, we don't have boring stuff, and that has continued through here. Hey, I like it. You like interesting times. You don't want boring times. Maybe I create some of these interesting times. I don't know, but mostly you just ride the flow. You don't want boring stuff. Yeah, I'm thinking about, I'm going to come in the studio. I wonder what we're going to talk about this morning. Nothing out there. Then boom, 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 boom. Little KD trade.
What was the name of the blog that you used to write? Because I used to comment on it all the time.
Talking Points.
Talking
the
Points.
long lost Talking Points blog.
I love that blog.
I missed that blog. I miss it. Can't really do that where I'm at right now, and I missed that. It was like the best thing I ever, for some reason, it was the best thing I ever did. It was very conversational.
Yes.
It was very on point. If I just had a thought, it goes up. I think people see that on the Twitter feed a little bit.
Yeah,
but,
just a little.
You know,
they're not blocked,
the blog.
TK.
Yeah, the blog was better though. The blog was just kind of like just free flowing.
It was a
stuff.
forum.
Yeah,
right.
And I wish we could do that at the place I'm at now, but we can't. But yeah, thank you for bringing up that, Joe.
No,
Appreciate that.
I used to be on there all the time because you had thought-provoking columns and things that you would put out there. Some might agree, some might don't, and like we shouldn't agree on everything.
Absolutely,
like, that's what makes things fun.
The discussion is good. Like,
Exactly.
Back and forth is good. Absolutely.
So I'm looking at this morning night, and Kevin Durant goes to the Phoenix Suns, and we're arguing about, what does that mean for the Warriors? I want to start at the very top. The greatest organizations, it feels like synergy from the top to the bottom is there, from owner through the GM, through the coach, down to the players. Why does it feel like to me that the Golden State Warriors just aren't all on the same page from top to bottom?
I think that's an interesting point. I think you're always going to have little differences of opinion. They've always, remember, there was some difference of opinion about whether they should put Clay into the Kevin Love trade package before they win the championships. You want strong personalities. Jerry West was a hell of a strong personality. Absolutely. But you want some of that frisson, right? You want some of that bounce. I think they've been together a long time. They've won a lot of games. Bob Myers, Joe Lacob, Steve Kerr, those are the main guys. They got, that and Mike Dunleavy. They've had Sean Livingston. They've got Kent and Kirk Lacob. I think at some point there might be a little bit of not exhaustion. That's kind of spells like that's the end of it, but more like they've been through a lot together.
Right.
They know the kind of the hits and the weaknesses and the pluses and the strengths. And maybe they've had these arguments for a long time. Not arguments, I shouldn't even say that.
Creative tension.
Debates. Debates.
Yeah.
And the coach wants to win right now. And he's saying, players that you got, I don't think I can win with these guys right now. We'll develop it. I think the personnel department drafted some of these players. And the owner is in on, this is it. I mean, there's no way around it. Joe Lacob is in on everything.
Yep. He told us that.
He bought the team.
What do you mean
He's
by
in
that?
on it. He doesn't make the decision.
Yeah.
Bob Myers makes the decision.
Yes.
But he's in every discussion.
He's in the room.
So he's got veto power, if you will.
I think it. I think if it's it'd have to be. He'd have to feel incredibly strong about something to veto. But they know his feelings. So if you don't draft James Wiseman and he wants to draft James Wiseman, and you draft somebody else, and James Wiseman's really good for somebody else, you're going to hear about it from Joe Lacob.
Right.
And I think that's okay. I mean, some people get uncomfortable with that. I'm okay with strong personalities, strong people. I got along with Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
I get along with Billy Bean, Buddy Ryan, you mentioned, Jerry West. It does sometimes, well, you're not in a little different category there. But it does, like Jim Harbaugh wears on people. I'm not saying it's the exact same. Bob Myers is not. Bob Myers is kind of he's a very comfortable conversation. He can steer things in a consensus. So I think they've had Joe has a very strong opinions. You got Steve Kerr, got very strong opinions. And Myers has kind of been the intermediary who's got his own opinions, but he does his own thing. And I think they've been together for a long time. I don't think it's going to break up anytime soon, but I think it will at some point because it's just a natural way things go. And I think we're kind of seeing some of the bumps, kind of under the radar bumps kind of pop up above the radar as they figure out what they do. They've got a lot of different things going on. They got these, Hall of Famers
right
coming to the end at some point, but they still believe the window's open. You can't tell Hall of Famers your window's closed.
Exactly.
They've got these young guys who they went for the high ceiling who are not playable at the moment. And I agree with Steve. I didn't agree with them at the beginning of the season. I agree with them now. I don't think Moody and Wiseman are playable. And you've got how do we this 2 timeline thing? A couple people told me, throw that out already. We won a championship last year with this situation. Now we're just trying to manage.
Yeah.
What's the best for the roster? And they're kind of stuck with the valuing system of what they can do with the top guys and what they can do with kind of the young guys. And there's a discussion among this. And when sometimes we hear about it, they don't agree, but they haven't agreed on a lot of things, and they try to manage the consensus. I think this consensus might be a little tougher than some of the others because they have the stratification.
Yeah.
You have the older guys and the young guys, and they're having a tougher time to merge those two.
Tim Kawakami live in studio, courtesy of the Bud Light guest line. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. So you brought up a couple things. Myers and Kerr. A lot of people don't believe they're going to leave. We know Bob Myers doesn't have a contract through July. There's a lot of talk about him. And then Steve Kerr with a year left on his deal. And I believe, Tim, this hasn't been Steve Kerr's best job. But some of the things you said there, Steve Kerr loves his veterans. I remember back in 2018 when he was talking about Jordan Bell and Quinn Cook and McCall saying, hey, we're going to lead on the young guys early in the season. Remember that? We're going to lead on the youngsters.
3 straight titles.
And that plan went awry 10 games into the season. He's like, no, I'm riding KD. I'm riding Steph. I'm riding Klay Thompson. Well, this year, I thought it was a mistake. I thought Wiseman should have played a little more with the starters to maximize him. I thought it was a mistake to play Moody, Wiseman coming in together because there are a bunch of youngsters who haven't played a lot together. And I thought the first 15 games, that situation was really botched with the youngsters.
They were terrible, though. I mean, and I agree with you in large part, and it pains me to agree with Bonte.
Yeah, I know it does.
Who drags me into the studio at 8 o'clock in the morning, but that's cool. I was agreeing with you, but you look at the numbers, and Steph Curry's numbers are destroyed when he's on the court with James Wiseman, utterly annihilated. Every single time over James Wiseman's rookie year, he didn't play last year, and this season. And at some point, I'm not saying it's vocalized, but it might be, Steph Curry and Draymond Green are saying, what the hell are you doing putting this guy on the court with us? And the fastest way to get your Hall of Fame guys, your dynasty guys, frustrated, pissed off, is if they think they've got better players who you're not playing because you're pushing the young guys out who they don't think have earned it. Again, I don't think it's vocalized, but you just look at the numbers. People don't have to love metrics, but every single one you look at, Wiseman killed not just everything. He specifically killed Curry minutes. They try to play him with starters, right? He started in his rookie season, first game. He didn't have a training camp. Let's see what this guy is because I think they were excited about the talent.
Throw him out against Brooklyn.
We all can see the talent, but can he play with this system? Can he move the ball? Is he decisive with the ball? Can he play help defense? We know the decisions that Steve Kerr's made. He doesn't say it. Is that he can't play. You could go look to see when he plays with Steph Curry. He doesn't play with Steph Curry unless it's just some freak.
Well, he doesn't play at all.
Rotation.
It feels like
doesn't play at all. They don't have some guys and they still don't play. Wiseman, they still don't play Moody.
It's just not a good
fit.
So
let's go back just because we're talking about decisions and tension, creative tension. I'm not trying to say tension like negative because I don't think all tension is, differences are actually healthy. Who wanted Wiseman? Bob, Lakeup?
They all wanted him. I mean, Lakeup gets upset. I do have him on my podcast, so I hear a lot from him. He gets upset when people think that it was only him. It was everybody. Now,
I heard some players too.
Yeah,
I heard some players approved.
It wasn't going to. It was him or LaMelo.
Right.
And they didn't want LaMelo specifically because he duplicates Steph.
Yes.
And they had D'Angelo Russell at the time. So I think they did. I'm trying to go back in history.
No, they traded. They traded right before that.
Right before. Okay, so they had Steph Curry,
and
they had Poole, and they had Klay Thompson.
Month was okay for Poole the year before.
And I think at the time I remember they're saying we got $70 million over the next year, and then $70 million the next year, and $80 million the next year for Steph and Klay. Do they need a guard, or can they change the dynamic and have James Wiseman? And they all were on board in varying degrees with the Wiseman. It was Wiseman or Ball. If you really have to think about it, that might look good, might look bad. It didn't look good early on when LaMelo Ball is obviously having a great rookie year, and Wiseman was up and down. I think they get Joe definitely gets upset when you said, "Okay, it's just Joe." He's the number one fan. Right. There's no question. He's the number one, and whether he says, "Hey, I'd like you to play him more," or it's just understood. I think that's part of the tension. Again, creative tension. Not throwing things against the wall tension, but they were on board for that. Now, beyond that, you can't just say he was number 2 pick, so he's got to play. Like, that's the sunk cost fallacy. You play the best players you have.
Right.
And I was with probably both you guys for most of the Wiseman era until this season. And he couldn't. And then I've talked to a few people who are not named Steve Kerr or Joe Lacob or Bob Myers, and maybe there's some of the names that have been mentioned already. They're like, you know what? Play the better guy. You don't play the guy just because you drafted him too. You have to maybe understand that this didn't quite work. Or this way, if he was drafted for the post-Draymond Steph era, that era got extended a little bit. Like, that championship extended this. Steph being this good still in this part of his career extended that. So how much of the Steph era are you going to borrow to try to jam this guy in and try to develop him? And he's not being developed. He's exactly where he was as a rookie. I think there's no question. Like, that's where he is.
He completely frozen in carbonite.
So either you go, okay, that's all right. We'll go to his fourth year and then it'll be fine, or his fifth or his sixth, and the money, by the way, I mean,
do they move him today? Because
I
think is it James Wiseman? Do you move him for nothing? This is the question. Just to get rid of his money, which is not going to please fans that much. I don't think it affects their chances this season at all, and you get off of potentially $100 million+ with tax.
We could do that as well with other players that are currently on the roster making lots of money in terms of luxury tax hits. But not to that magnitude.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, Klay Thompson, the first month and a half of the season was terrible.
I don't know that you can move Klay Thompson.
No, I'm not saying you can't, but, like, there was an argument to me, well, man, look at what his luxury tax hit's going to be moving forward. But he's been amazing since, since that first month and a half. Does Wiseman get dealt today?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think they have a real issue with they don't think he's great. They don't think he's valueless. And right now, with that $12 million coming up next season, that's a tough value. So do you give him away? You know, do you almost have to? They might even have to attach something.
Staple,
with him,
a draft pick.
Yeah, and that I don't think Joe Lacob is willing to do. And I think maybe not even Bob Myers or Steve Kerr. It's just like, to get off that money, maybe you can do it in the off season, right? Maybe you can do it, like, they can put it off,
right,
than having to do it right now. Can you go Wiseman plus Moody? Maybe get you a second round pick. I mean, I know this is not
because Moody's not playing.
Yeah, we're not talking about them getting a rotation player. I don't think that. I would be surprised if that happens. They've been very interested in that. They have been talking to teams. Those two guys are available, but it's for something good. Jared Vanderbilt, who just went
to the
Alex
Lakers.
Caruso is not going. Like, they're not. The teams are not saying, man, that's a bid that we have to pay attention to. They might have to throw something else, and I don't even know what else they have to throw in.
Yeah, that's a lot. Tim Kawakami here, courtesy of the Bud Light guest line. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Of course, TK, been in the Bay Area for a long, long time, covering all the teams. Done a lot of good things, whether it's the Raiders, Niners, Warriors, Sharks, Giants, A's, you name it. Tim K mixes it up.
Sharks, that's a way.
The host of the TK podcast as well, man. He gets all the heavy hitters on the TK podcast. Wiseman, what did they think he would be? Because a lot of people say, man, you got to draft James Wiseman. Some writers told me, man, he's like Chris Webber 2.0, which got by. And look, you look at the way he plays, there's a lot of offensive potential. But the fit here, I was talking to a scout last week, said the fit is not here because of what the Warriors want from their bigs. So what did they expect from him?
I think they thought could change the dynamic of what they do, where it's not just the Warriors play this way, as Bogut says, and he's now convinced me by these are series of conversations I've had that now convinced me from my original thinking on Wiseman, because I was a Wiseman guy, that like they could change with a big man. It has a tough time because they have to make all these decisions. You're the pivot in the middle. You have to make the pass to start the thing, and that's not James Wiseman. And we've seen a series of guys who could not do that. But maybe it changes. Like if Steph falls off a little bit in a year or two, in their minds. Then you play a different style, and you just play pick and roll, Jordan Poole and James Wiseman. That was the idea. That this and there's going to be a time when Draymond Green isn't on the back line. Well, what do? Do you just try to get Draymond Green part two? That doesn't exist. Like all these teams are trying to get another Draymond Green. So you have to change a little bit of how you play. Maybe you change it a lot with a guy who's going to be a rim runner. He's got a guy who can hit a three.
Yeah.
We saw that. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see him shoot a three again, but we did see that in his rookie season.
Tim,
and like change who they play, how they play, through just a dynamic talent. They wanted the highest ceiling. The way it was explained to me, literally at the time, was we hope to never get this pick ever again. And do we take the guy who kind of fits, or we take the guy who could change how we play and make us, a credible team after Steph and Draymond are gone. What happened that's different? Wiseman didn't play very well, got hurt, all the things that have happened throughout his career, and Steph and Draymond won a freaking championship.
I know.
That's what happened. And they owe it to them, however much, whatever you weigh it as, to say, who fits with you? This thing still should continue. Right. We took our swing. I don't know that LaMelo Ball, he would have been a better player, but I don't know if he would have fit. Yeah,
but where's Jordan Poole at? Where's Jordan Poole at?
Where's his dad?
Exactly.
There's a lot.
It gets bogged down into, you go for the highest talent you can. Oh my God, this guy could be really talented. Mm-hmm. This could really, and then it's not. We're not seeing it. We're not seeing it. So then, what do you do then?
So I guess the question that I have, we don't know whether you think they're not going to trade Wiseman. Everyone uses him as obviously a scapegoat for a variety of reasons. Does Wiseman or Moody or any of their handling of keeping, not trading, whatever, does any of that affect Bob Myers and his contract extension or his, ability, elasticity to make moves, not make moves? Like, does any of that factor into Bob staying with the Warriors?
The overall picture. It's all part of the overall picture. Whether if he believes that his hands are tied here because ownership really feels strongly about the young guys. But I think this is the part that I think people don't understand, maybe because I talk to Joe a lot, I talk to Bob a lot. You can feel the presence of Joe, right? Joe has a presence. Right. He has a presence when he's sitting courtside, right?
We've been in the room with him.
Arms folded over his chest, or the way he looks.
How about him sitting next to the Warriors fence during the NBA Finals in Boston?
Exactly. While his back hurt too, by the way. But you can deal with that. That's the part. I get yelled at by Joe. You deal with it. You roll with it. And I think Bob sometimes gets tired of it, but sometimes is the best possible guy to deal with it. And he knows his value. I think the larger picture is he's not being offered the top salary among executives in the NBA. He still might not take it in a second, but I think if you did, he'd take it because he knows that Steph Curry and Steve Kerr are not, and Draymond Green forever are not people to walk away from. I do believe he thinks he needs to be valued more. I do believe he's a negotiator. I do believe Joe Lacob is a negotiator. I do believe Bob is worn down by all these things, the Durant, the Draymond, all these things.
Who wouldn't be?
Yeah, and he's saying, wait a minute, I'm tired of this a little bit. Like we all get tired of our jobs at times. I'm stressed. My family needs me, and you're not offering me the top salary, and yet I've got 4 championships, and Daryl Morey has 0, and you're not offering me. Now, I do think it's a negotiation. I think this quietly happened back, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago, the last time Myers' contract came up. And I was having people tell me, oh my God, they're not valuing him, and he needs something more. And guess what? He got more.
Because the Lakers' job was open, and there was rumors about that.
There's always stuff with Bob with LA. He could go. He could take time off. He's doing a podcast now. God knows
he can do whatever he wants.
There's things that he could do. There are teams that would do anything for him. I was chuckling to myself. I'll give you guys a hot take. When the Durant deal came down, because believe me, Matt Ishbia and the Suns has been rumored heavily as a team that would pay anything to get Myers.
Wow.
That's it. You know what? Do they need him anymore? They got Durant. He's the guy who gets you Durant, right? That's hey, Bob, that's okay now. We'll bring Isaiah Thomas in here. We're just fine.
Scottsdale's a good place to live.
Yeah, no. He could. Bob can name his team.
Yes.
The Clippers and the Suns are the ones that everyone points to. I don't know.
Jerry West would love to stick it to the Warriors to go steal Bob Myers.
Just a little bit, maybe. Just a little bit.
You brought up Draymond Green a couple times. And Draymond Green obviously has the player option. He spoke about, as we're talking to Tim Kawakami live in studio, courtesy of the Bud Light guest line, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Draymond Green, we know about the Jordan Poole incident. We know about him in the past saying, hey, Steve and Bob messed up the KD situation about the apology or whatnot, which is hilarious when you think.
I thought it was so unfair.
It was those two players. I mean, I heard that's two players on a podcast together. It's like me and Bonte on a podcast together. We might bitch and moan about something else, but it's just two guys trying to placate each other.
Exactly.
By the way,
exactly.
Just a disclaimer, if I ever make the TK podcast, mama, I made it. Shasky, we ever make the TK podcast, we're doing something.
We're measuring it.
But how do the Warriors feel? How do the Warriors feel?
He's trying to get rid of me already, Tim.
Can you see this? I love this, Shasky.
He's looking at me as a box to jump to the next
I needed Shasky in Philadelphia as much as he needed me, man. That was a tough trip.
We almost killed each other at 7:30, but we're good.
No doubt. Just arguing about the Denver Nuggets. That's what we argue. That's what we do, TK. But Draymond Green, talking about
playing with you, I could hear you doing like a show in the rows ahead of me. But go ahead.
Draymond Green, the player option. How do the Warriors brass feel about him picking up the option or to get with him not picking up the option and moving on. That scenario is going to be wild, and it's not going to end well with Draymond Green and the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, Draymond's kind of telegraphed it that he, thinks this might be his final season. Who knows? You hit Jordan Poole at the start of it. It certainly ramped up everything. They don't sign him to the extension, and they do sign Wiggins and Poole. All these things are factors. I think in the Warriors side, they believe that Draymond is going to look for an extension. Whoever is going to give him that, he's going to go to. And he'll look around and he'll know, the territory. Let's say, we're not saying tampering, but he'll know what the environment is. And if someone's is out there can pay him a lot of money, then he'll go. But those teams tend to be the good teams, right? They don't have a salary cap, so then it might have to a sign and trade. Like every evidence in my mind, because Draymond's smart, is he's going to try to get an extension out of this. Are the Warriors willing to give him an extension? I think there's some. Yeah, there's some part of
good basketball now.
You tell number 30 that we could have kept Draymond and we did. Like it all comes down to that. Like Steph Curry, we talk about Joe Lacob, Bob Myers, Steve Kerr. Every decision they make, at some point they run through their minds, what's Steph going to think about this? Why? Because he's smart, because he's the most important person in the history of the franchise.
What does Steph think right now, you think?
I think he wants another player. He wants another player to win this year. Then they'll think about the future in the future.
What do you mean by that, another player? Like
they want another rotation player.
Another rotation.
Yeah. I mean, again, they're
I
not
love
available.
Mikal Bridges. Like to me,
but that's not even a rotational player. Mikal Bridges is an all-star.
And he's a guy under contract for multiple years who gives you perimeter defense, 3-point shooting. And I know it's a very difficult ask. You'd have to get rid of some stuff.
That would have taken Kuminga plus whatever.
Moody, Wiseman, some picks. Who knows?
They got Durant for him. That's I don't think the Warriors could have got Mikal Bridges. It's a great player.
Yes,
it would be perfect for the Warriors. But even the Jared Vanderbilt, even these lower level. Now maybe they can get in on this. I don't happen to think so. Alex Caruso.
What about Jay Crowder?
Kelly Olynyk.
Crowder went right. Crowder went. Yeah,
he's in Brooklyn. Do you think they move him before?
Crowder or Royce O'Neal. They seem overlapping. So that's a player that Steph and Draymond would like.
Okay,
whether they can get in for that, the Nets aren't trying to tank. They don't have no pick. So it's not like
Kelly Olynyk from Utah.
I think they would have loved Kelly Olynyk.
He's got another year left on his deal as well.
Would those teams would Utah want Wiseman and Moody? I don't think they would. Now maybe I'm wrong.
That's how bad their value is. You think around the league?
That $12 million. Now listen, I was all in favor of the Warriors picking up that option. Right. If they didn't pick up that option, they'd have a lot more flexibility right now. I didn't know it was going to be this bad this season. I thought he was going to play. And
we all did.
5 different things happened to convince me that not only is he not, we see that he's not playing, but he shouldn't play.
Yeah.
He shouldn't you just see when he's out there with Steph or Draymond ever again. It's not going to be very often. And there's a reason for that, because they want JaMychal Green out there. They want anybody else out there. Kuminga has won them over.
Right.
Just by being a good player. And sometimes that's what it's about. It's not your draft status. Although obviously he was drafted very high.
You got to play well.
It's just can you play with these guys?
Know your role.
Yeah, can you play with these guys or can't you? And the Moody one is almost more shocking. We get all Wiseman, boom, bust, boom, whatever. Moody I thought was just a solid rotation guy.
Me too.
Season. And something happened in the offseason where he lost their faith. He lost something, and now he's a slow player.
He looks
who does
timid.
Not do anything offensively
stiff.
except shoot threes.
Yeah.
And at 20, 21 years old, that's not what you should be.
No.
You should be dynamic. You should be adding things.
Yeah, I thought he'd be a better playmaker this season.
And defensively.
That's yeah, that's no question. He's not. He's getting beat off the dribble.
Yep.
I was questioning Steve Kerr about this early in the season. I was probably not getting loved by Steve Kerr by questioning this. I kept asking him about it, and then I started looking around and going, I don't even know what he's doing. I don't know what Moody's doing.
What does
I don't
he
know.
do above average right now?
Nothing. I mean, maybe shoot threes, but not great. But he can shoot threes. His thing, and I know this stuff, not specific to Moody, but everybody who plays for the Warriors. If you see a guy who takes 2 dribbles into a lane and gets stopped, and then doesn't know what to do, flustered, turnover. Steve Kerr doesn't. That guy's coming out of the game. Unless his name's Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, or Klay Thompson. That guy's coming out of the game. And you never saw Livingston do this, Iguodala do this. Like the guys who were the guys.
More seasoned,
And Moody, they thought had that in him last season. They thought he was smart, right? Everything was smart. IQ, he fits right in. And it just stopped in the offseason. Sometimes that does. Maybe he picks it up again. He's still young, but I was doubting what Steve Kerr was thinking. I said, just
here.
get him in there. But also, I think the 3-7 start was just emergency bells. Panic. Well, what the hell? This might
in their
be
life on the road.
Yeah, like we're no good. Oh my God. Like, and that sent a jolt through them in the same way that 18-2 last season calmed everything down.
Good point.
And when you are playing for your lives, you make different decisions. But I also, at this point, in retrospect, agree with Kerr, having talked to a lot of people, mostly about Wiseman, but Moody too. Like it's not good. It's not good when these guys are in there. They have other guys. Fans can obsess about Ty Jerome, but he's not playing over Moody. He plays when they need another point guard.
Right.
Anthony Lamb. I'm not an Anthony Lamb guy. Coaches like him. He's not been playing lately. They do more for this team, I agree, than Moses Moody.
No, they do.
Wiseman is destructive to the team.
Yeah,
so,
Lamb can hit an open three. Lamb can hit an open three. Tim Kawakami live in studio here on the Morning Roast. We love TK. Podcast, by the way, dropped today, the TK podcast with Farhan Zaidi, a guy we've kind of ripped on the show.
Do me a favor. Today's not the day to talk baseball because of all the NBA stuff. Right. Can you please come back so that you and me and Bonte can have a State of the Giants conversation?
Sure, absolutely.
It's a lot going on with them.
It's driving me crazy.
It's a lot going on with them. That's how
How
they're
can you spend $100 gazillion
dollars talking about the Giants? I don't know.
Yeah,
they have the most boring roster I've ever seen in my life.
It's going to be rough. This is going to be a rough season, and they know. They think they're going to be pretty good. They know the fans are going to be really ornery about this.
Yeah, no
they
doubt.
get off to a 3-6 start.
Oh my gosh!
Can you
a lot
imagine?
of empty green seats.
Yeah,
at Oracle Park.
There's going to be empty green seats. No matter
Cheap club level for me.
Before we get to the Niners here, listen to that podcast. I can't wait to listen to it.
Too.
Farhad Zaidi on the TK podcast. Where does this season end for the Warriors? It's tough to predict everything, but if they stand pat and you look at the Western Conference, because still, despite them being 28-27, Dallas is in a 4 spot with 26 losses. The West has never had this much parity where it's mediocre. I think it's just a lot of mediocre basketball going on right now. Now, we see the Suns make their big move for Kevin Durant. The Lakers make a move, which I think will make them better. Dallas trades for Kyrie Irving. Where do the Warriors now stack up at the West if they don't make a move in just over 4 hours?
I don't think a move is going to help them that much. That's my unless they pull something out of their sleeve and end up with a Caruso. Like, whoever they get is going to be slightly better than Anthony Lamb. And to slightly better than Anthony Lamb, get them up a couple positions. And maybe it protects them on the back end where maybe they're not having to extend some guys. But no, I think they are where they are. Could verge on the 5th seed, maybe 4th seed if things really go well. But with Steph out, probably past the All-Star break. Did that change the dynamic to me? Like, you could think with Steph in there, they probably win last night's game. They win last night's game. They're looking like they're taking an eye at 3 or 4 seed. Maybe not get there, but you're looking at it.
But it's right there.
And you've played Memphis well, and you've played the good teams pretty well. You got blown out by some other teams, of course. But you could, in your mind, say, okay, Warriors is a 4 seed. That's going to be a little nasty for some teams out there. This point, I'm thinking a 6, 7. You don't want to be in the 7 because that might get you in the play-in. But I listen, that's life. You get the 7, you deal with the play-in, you win the play-in.
You play Memphis in the first round, and I think they feel good against Memphis.
Again, exactly. That's what we keep coming down to is if they qualify, and I think they will. I think there's just too much talent. There's too much pride. Steph and Draymond are just not going to let them get eliminated before the playoffs start. Then you look at to start the matchups, and I'm not sure any team wants to play them.
No.
If you have Denver saying, okay, you can take any team you want to play in the first round, the Warriors might be at the end. Now we'll see Phoenix with Durant. That's a whole other thing.
That's a different beast.
But how does that put together? And Mikal Bridges was an incredible defender.
He was really the Curry elixir.
Exactly. He's like maybe the toughest guy.
Agreed.
To guard and Steph, at least in the last few years. I don't think I wrote this. I think they could turn it up. I don't think they can turn it up when they want it exactly, and as long as they need it. I think that the energy level is going to be tough. They barely made it through the playoffs last year, and that's with Steph getting that time off. Remember, right before
Draymond
the playoffs.
too.
Yes. So the Steph legs thing might be helped by this. Now, listen, they're going to get hurt in the standings, but he's not going to be playing 70 games. Right? He's going to play 50 games,
50
maybe?
games,
40, 48 games.
And Wiggins will have some legs after all the time off.
Yeah,
Exactly.
He's starting to look better.
It's so important for Wiggins to play well.
100%.
It's so important because he's got to play the defense. He's got to rebound. He's got to be their third or second offensive option. If Clay's not going, he's the second option. Go find shots. That's where Kuminga helps them.
Yes.
He goes find. He was not good last night, but that happens.
Right.
Go find shots. Go dig out the ball. Last night he was kind of boxing the ball. I don't know what sometimes that just
he
happens.
just had a bad night.
You get going
a little
fast.
rattled, get called for some fouls. He kind of got out of his head.
Yeah.
Where are you at on Jordan Poole? Because it feels like he's a lightning rod for criticism for a lot of people. He's a really young player. At times, like the other night, the floor game was brilliant. And then there's the final 5 minutes of last night's game. He's just dribbling into traffic, throwing up wild, layups. They're passing up layups for 3-point bombs. What do you make of his game this year? Because I feel like he's in a tough spot, and it's easy to criticize him. And he hasn't been great, but he's been pretty good.
Listen, they need what he does.
Yeah.
He just doesn't do it all the time.
Yeah.
So
consistent
that's a really, I'm comparing him to D'Angelo Russell a little bit. And maybe, that's a flattering comparison. Maybe it's not. Because we know what happened with Russell with the Warriors. It just didn't work. And Poole has worked in a way with the Warriors that Russell never did. But he hadn't had a good year. And this is after the contract. We understand they got punched by Draymond. That probably screwed up some things. But
have you ever seen that in sports? Tim, you've been covering this a long time.
Right.
Every single, hockey, baseball, basketball, everything, different markets. I had never, that video, we were on air when it came out. I'd never seen anything like that.
I mean, we know there's been times when guys have punched people in practice.
Yeah.
And whether it's been public or not, Shaq slapped Kobe.
Yeah.
My first year covering the Lakers, we heard about it from Olden Polonese telling the world about it in a pre-lock, lockout, hilarious stuff. But that had resonation, right? I mean, that meant something. That was wild. Yeah, the fact that the video came out, they're the Warriors. That stuff comes out. They're the biggest team in the world other than the Lakers. It was huge. They had to deal with it. That's still happening. But I don't want to put Poole on a spot here, and I kind of did in a column, but I didn't mean to. It's not a shock though that Steve Kerr's blown up at him during the game. We've seen it. That Steph Curry was yelling at him
on that shot.
Got kicked out of the game.
That never.
That was crazy.
Get through. Yeah, that never happens. When has Steph ever done that to a teammate? He barely does it to opponents.
Right.
He's never done it. Certainly has never done that to Kerr. He did it right on the court to Jordan Poole.
Right.
And Draymond punched him. Now, again, I'm not trying to equate the other two things with Draymond's punch. I'm just saying he is that kind of irritant. I don't know. I mean, he's
different. That's for sure.
There's this super, and he's very popular. I'm not saying he's a popular guy with all the players. He does not love me right now. That's okay because he's got a game that I don't love. I went through this with David Lee. No defense is a problem. And he's trying.
Yes,
he's just not good at it.
Well, he falls asleep off ball. He's
not physical. He's not physical.
No,
and if you notice,
lunges.
some of those, when they rotate and they switch.
Yep.
And there's an offensive rebound comes up, and the guy's got a dunk like last night. You're like, okay, who was supposed to take that one? It's always Jordan.
Always.
He's just looking up.
Far man
also,
help.
the dribble drive, because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander Monday night started off that game for OKC, just going right at Jordan Poole. And they got into a rhythm and scored 37 in the first quarter. The problem with Jordan Poole is when he just gets into the over-dribbling. We saw it last night. He just tries to get this bag. Going too fast. Dribble. Let me and one mixtape.
And as I have noted, he falls down a whole lot. Loses the ball.
It's a good call.
Stays down on the ground. They come back the other side. It's 5-on-4. Like this happened last night. It's a David Lee-like situation for me. And David and I got into it was a big deal. It's a kind of game that I understand is valuable. That should be rewarded. That teams like. I get it. These are really important players, but high volume. David wasn't high volume, but in my mind,
high usage.
High usage.
Yes.
Turnover prone. No defense. Those are tough players for me because I like the Iguodalas in his prime. Livingston, Draymond. Those are my guys.
Guys who make winning plays.
Bob Myers kind of players. Like they're not taking up all the shots. And they're connecting people. Now Jordan he had 12 assists, career high. Now it's interesting, his career high 12 assists. Like he's not an assist kind of guy, but he did it that last game, and credit to him. And that's why you had Kerr and Draymond going, greatest game I've ever seen Jordan play.
Because they wanted to impart that into
please,
him.
Would you pass like this?
Tim, I said to him the other day in a group thread, and maybe this is too harsh. There's times where I'm looking at him and I'm going, is he just giving me the Monte Ellis with a sweet jumper?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I think he's better than that.
I do too.
Yeah,
but is that fair?
That's my D'Angelo Russell comp a little. Like it's his high volume. It can be great, but then if he's not great, it's not good. At all. Like he has to be great.
Well,
and then sometimes even when he's great, it's not that big a deal. It's a connector. I call it connecting players. Steph is a high volume too, but he connects everybody.
Dante DiVincenzo.
DiVincenzo connects people, and he plays defense. Like there's just these these check marks that I have for players that I like. And David Lee did not have them. D'Angelo Russell doesn't have them.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole, again, these guys, I'm not saying he absolutely deserved that contract because that was the market.
Yeah.
But is he a guy that he's going to go, okay, that's the next guy when Steph retires?
I don't know.
I don't know that.
I
don't think the team knows that.
Well, because
they had to give him the contract.
Yep.
Doesn't mean that's the guy that they thought was worth the contract. He just had to get the contract.
Yeah.
You had to do it.
And that puts him on a pedestal that we're all looking at and going, you're not doing what you did last season.
Right.
He's not. The numbers are not there.
Yeah.
But the fact that he can do it, and he can hit those step-back threes, and he can initiate when they don't have a lot of offensive initiators, this is a valuable player in this league. If they wanted to trade him next season, because they can't trade him now, if they want to trade him in July, they could trade him for a lot.
I think so, too.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I really do, it's not going to be Jordan or Draymond because the Wiseman salary becomes in that. Only one of those guys is going to be moved.
I think
one
so,
of those
I
guys
agree.
and possibly two, because Draymond might move himself.
Right.
But if you had to ask right now, the Warriors, truth or dare, Jordan Poole or Draymond Green, who would you rather have to win games starting in July?
They say Draymond.
They'd say Draymond. There's not a question.
Wow.
And yet Jordan Poole's got signed to a $120 million deal.
I know.
But
that was the Tyler Hero money.
Right.
Absolutely. It had to be done.
You had to do that
But
contract.
I know. No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I know.
And Russell was the same way, by the way. They had to do that to maintain that
salary slot.
while they gave up Durant. And they didn't do it because this is the guy. We love him. He's going to be perfect. Now, maybe they said that, and maybe they were hoping that.
Right.
But they didn't.
They
knew that this could be a move. I'm not saying they're going to trade Jordan Poole in the future. I'm just saying that asset is something they needed to maintain, and they can trade it in the future.
No doubt. Fast Five, ask Tim anything. Text or YouTube, no calls today. 888-957-9570 is the Xfinity Mobile text line. We got a couple questions for Tim Kawakami. Ask Tim anything at 8:50 here on the Morning Roast as he's live in studio, courtesy of the Bud Light guest line. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Another development, though, you're seeing with Jordan Poole, as we put a ball in this conversation with JP, is that Steve Kerr's not messing around anymore. We saw the Dallas game on Saturday night. Hey, Jordan Poole, you're not making winning basketball plays, more turnovers than points. You're not playing in the last 5 minutes. You're starting to see Dante DiVincenzo take those minutes.
Who deserved
Kuminga at that time. And so I think Steve Kerr notices as well. It's like, hey, maybe I get this guy to start. He gets off to a hot start. We get his 20, 25 points as a starter. But in crunch time, he's not making winning plays. And the turnovers in crunch time, the over-dribbling in crunch time, Steve Kerr now has put that urgency into Jordan Poole, I think, saying, you're just not ready to close with these guys.
Yeah, I think they close with them sometimes, but defensively, that decision's been made. The decision's been made. Dante DiVincenzo is going to close games on the defensive side when they need them. They might go offense-defense, but they also might just go Dante DiVincenzo if they need to stop somebody because of Jordan Poole. And plus, they got a tough situation because Steph's not going to stop anybody lock anybody down the perimeter. They don't have to go to all out to throw at anybody. Clay's not the same defensive player. Right. So you're a little short on the defensive. When you're going against perimeter, a team like, say, Denver, that's got a lot of good perimeter players. I think Poole was on Michael Porter for a little bit, and that's not going to work out too well, probably. No. Clay had to take a run at him. Clay tried. He's not the same defensive player that he was before the injury, certainly, nor should he be. But no, DDV... That's a guy that's going to play a lot of minutes. That's proven. He hits some threes. He's going to play even more. They're going to find a way to mix this all in. I don't think it will be Poole. You're not closing, but in a moment where he's not has it going offensively, and they need a defensive player out there, it's going to be Dante over Jordan. It just is. And Steve's made that call. That's happening. We're seeing it happen. Coaches never lie when they're playing.
No doubt.
They can say stuff at the press conference. That's fine. And that's great. And I understand what they have to deal with.
Right.
But that's why I ask about the rotation so much. That's why I look at it so much. That's why I tweet about it so much. That's why I write about it so much. They do not lie about playing time. That is what they feel about their players.
No doubt.
And we're seeing it sometimes with DiVincenzo and Poole.
And we got about 15 minutes left with the trade deadline and high noon.
Yeah, I want to squeeze in so much.
The Niners stuff. All right, because we were
talking
last Saturday.
One last thing on the Warriors. What's the biggest revelation to you? That the Warriors came back and won a championship, or that young flannel-wearing Bonte Hill went from being in the locker room to on television? That's the last Warrior
That's
question.
like the biggest move of all time right there.
That
was stunned us all, continues to be jaw-dropping. Commanding the studio, commanding the scene. Bonte Hill, You got to you got the Steph rise in the Tennessee, and then Bonte like right below that, right below that.
Got to wear suits
now.
now.
You can go back on to the Niners.
Let's talk about the Niners. I'm glad you had to get that in. Not Chris Mullen's my guy, right?
Yeah, what's happened to Chris Mullen and Festus Ezeli's career? They got to sit next to Bonte all the time. Like, good Lord.
Mullen goes from playing with the Dream Team and being in the Hall of Fame to working with some guy named Bonte. All right, the 49ers.
Does he know your name?
Chris Mullen was FaceTiming us at the Eagles game, and I was the most happy I could ever be. When he says my name, I perk up. This is one of my idols growing up.
Mully, again.
He's the best.
He's one of my guys. So, yeah, absolutely.
I love him.
Actually, he brought you up yesterday. I was like, TK's come to the studio because Mully would tease about the morning roast. And
he always teases me.
Kawakami's blowing me up right now.
Yes.
I guess I'm due for an appearance on a podcast.
Yes. I mean, he's only supposed to come on like 5 times, and we haven't been able to do it. Now we'll get him on.
Got to get up to Round Hill or something and get him on the golf course.
Get onto the Niners because this Jimmy G thing is juicy.
Well, the Jimmy G stuff, the Niners. You were at the presser with Kyle Shanahan, and you tweeted this. Man, the Niners probably shouldn't have had Shanahan up there because he was obviously edgy.
No, I didn't say that because I like it. I mean, it's interesting for us. We talk about it. It's authentic. But sometimes I think maybe they should either make sure he gets some rest the night before or something because he was really edgy. He was sharp. You got to be on your toes around him. But I think that's authentic Kyle too. When he's tired and when he's grinding, you're going to get this from him. And maybe that's what the quarterbacks get from him a lot. Maybe that's what the team gets about, but they respect it.
Right.
It's not, juicy, floaty PR. Oh, everybody's great stuff. And listen, you got to, as I said, you got to be on your toes. You got to ask him direct questions, and he'll give you direct answers. And after his blow off of Jimmy, which I was surprised, but I thought he could at least say, "Hey, this is a guy who gave us a lot."
Right.
Well, I was going to ask you,
salvage the season.
Were you surprised by that?
I was surprised by that. And so that's why
it had something to do with Jimmy not suiting up in the NFC Championship game?
Yeah, I mean, I made some calls. I don't want to make any large assumptions because I didn't hear the exact specifics, but I'll just put this in this context. They kept him on the roster. They could have easily put him on IR and had another player up. Doesn't mean that player would have been a star,
right?
But maybe Hassan Ridgeway, who's a defensive tackle run stopper, could have helped against the Eagles. I think some of this was flowing through the 49ers. Jimmy's a guy who constantly got hurt for them. Mm-hmm. They counted on him, got hurt. Counted on him, got hurt. Played great for them in 2019, all the way through, stayed healthy. Maybe didn't make some passes in the Super Bowl. We all know that. I think some things build up. I think a relationship goes through these things, and by, let's say, the end of the regular season into the playoffs, the Garoppolo Shanahan relationship, it kind of expired, and part of it was are you not going to be healthy for me again? Now I don't know this,
right?
And I don't think the words are expressed like this, but if I just interpolate, I'm not saying I know this, but if you just look at the details, because I was told what I just checked with people, what the hell was that Kyle response? Even for Kyle, that was sharp.
Right.
And nobody was surprised that happened. And they also pointed out, listen, Jimmy was not available to the media.
Yeah, he left.
So
Wow.
That's something.
Did that surprise you?
I thought he would be available. Yeah, I thought he'd be at least for quick something.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the goodbye, the heartfelt. He did the heartfelt goodbye last season, right?
See you, fellas.
Something. But it was clear he didn't want any part of any conversation in the locker room after the season. That's traditionally where you do it. Certainly hasn't been available now. I think I was pointed both things. The Kyle answer and the Jimmy getting out of there are related. And neither one of them is a surprise. This relationship had gone south. That's what I wrote. Yeah. That's what I heard. And if you just add it up, nobody was saying this, but they counted on Jimmy a lot. And he gave them a lot. Then he got hurt a lot.
And he let him down.
And they brought him back. This whole practice on the side field.
Oh, we were there? I saw you?
It was bizarre.
It was so weird.
I talked to Jimmy about it, and he's realistic about it. He did not have other options.
Yeah.
So he came back to the 49ers as the back. He did not like it. And then he was good for them. And then he got hurt again.
I know.
So it's just this... Kyle and Jimmy were never buddies, right? Because it was going to be Kirk Cousins or it's going to be somebody else. Yeah. I think that was good for the team, though. The other players liked that the quarterback wasn't a kiss-ass Shanahan guy. He was a guy that Shanahan would get on as much or more than he would get on anyone else. That kind of helped the Jimmy leadership in the locker room. But you can only do that for so long. You can only have that relationship. That's just not going to be great.
It's not sustainable.
When he's never been the guy. And then Kyle got Brock Purdy. And I think the Purdy ascension, we'll see if he's healthy. But I think in Kyle's mind, and I said it, and I just speculated, but this is almost certainly true. It's just that wiped out Garoppolo in his mind. I got my guy. This is my guy for the future. We'll see with Trey Lance. I like him too. And we noticed that, Purdy and Lance were having exchanges, not so much Garoppolo.
Right.
One of them was on IR, the other one won. It just was an interesting dynamic there.
Remember I told you during the Philly game, I was surprised to see Garoppolo walk out on the tunnel and be on the sideline.
Yeah.
He'd been on the sideline for a couple of games.
Okay.
It's hard in that because they're on coats and everything.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a Lance and Purdy kind of contribution, not so much Jimmy. Jimmy was I don't know. I mean, he was in the meeting rooms, they say, but I just think this relationship 6 years had come to an end, and maybe it should have come to an end after 5.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And it just kind of jammed in the 6th year, and then they counted on him. Like, it's like, I'm not going to fall in love with this girl again. I'm not going to do it. She's broken up with me 4 times. This one last, it was. I extrapolate from what I've heard since I've checked with people that's what it came down to. Just this long relationship had gone through ups and downs, had not won a Super Bowl together, and just wasn't going to go any further. And they both cut it off abruptly at the end.
I know he wants to get a Brock Trey question in there at some point, so I want to squeeze this one in. On Jed York, I find it interesting. I'm going back 10 years ago, and you were all over this. Harbaugh didn't win the big one. There was way more than that, but that's what it's filed under. Hey, he didn't win the big one. We were moving on. To me, there was so much more than just that. Kyle hasn't won the big one. We all in this room agree. Kyle's a great coach. Is he perfect? No. But he's really, really, really good, and they'd be foolish to be able to move off him. But at what point, like what is the thing that could undo Kyle? And I'm not trying to say I'm running him out of town. I'm asking sincerely, is it continually losing like Andy Reid? Because now Andy's obviously in Kansas City. What is the thing that usurps the power of Kyle Shanahan in the San Francisco 49ers organization?
There is a time when even near misses, when they pile up, aren't enough. The Andy Reid situation.
Yeah.
And was it wise for the Eagles to move on from Reid? Well, they rebuilt the roster a couple of times. They won a Super Bowl. They might win another one. Mm-hmm. I think you can say it was wise. But Andy Reid's a hell of a coach, and you better have a good coach ready to go.
100%.
You better have a structure ready to go. You better have an offensive system ready to go. But no, I think what ended Reid's time, even with the winning, was the quarterback started getting screwed up.
Yeah.
Right? And I think Shanahan's already had screwy quarterbacks, and he's won. That's the thing. Like, he's won even with the screwy quarterbacks. Right. With Brock Purdy, I think the feeling in the organization is now he's got his quarterback. He's got his guy. Believe me, that is what they're feeling. We'll see what happens with the surgery. We don't know what the ball's going to look like coming out of his hand when he's back. They have a lot of faith in that. And they believe, like, Kirk Cousins was going to be, I keep saying it, but this is so true. Kyle even said so to me. Like, they were going to, Kirk Cousins was going to be the guy.
That's crazy.
And then,
that is wild.
And then it wasn't. It was Jimmy.
Crazy.
But Jimmy was always kind of like the other guy.
Yeah. He was a side piece.
There is no other guy with Brock Purdy. That's the guy.
Wow.
So
does Trey Lance get moved then, you think?
No, I mean, he costs more if they trade him than he would be keep. So you let him, again, Brock Purdy's hurt.
What did you think of Trey Lance yesterday on the Rich Eisen show?
I didn't listen to it.
Okay.
I heard what he said. Hey, I think he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. He gets what's going on.
I thought he looked good in some of the training camp that I was at. Not every day, but he had moments.
He has talent. I think the vast disappointment to Kyle, other than, sometimes he called the wrong play. Like, I was there. Sometimes they just didn't. And you figure that for a rookie quarterback. It just never happens with Purdy. Like, there was a Cousins RG3 thing going on a little bit where Kyle's like, this rookie's picking it up like super fast, and Trey's struggling. Now, we'll still go with Trey. We know it's there, but it's not happening where he's picking up the feel of what has to happen, and Purdy picked it up like that. I didn't even see it at the camp. I didn't see Purdy.
Right.
Thank you, Tim, because I was standing next to you.
I didn't even
this revisionist history that he lit it up in camp?
Kyle said it at the time. No, I think the people who are saying they saw it might be doing revision.
Thank you, Tim. That's all I was saying.
I'll just say Kyle was always on this. Like we can't say that Kyle was doing revision. Like, Kyle was always on. I think they were getting the Kyle vibe, maybe, or trying to channel it. That's fine. Various people who've seen a lot of training camps did not see it out of Brock Purdy.
Right,
I'm not the only one.
I know.
Thank you.
But
thank you for putting that
I also think Lance disappointed Kyle athletically a little bit. Like, he's not fast.
Right.
Like they thought he was going to get around a corner. Like, Kyle's, what's Kyle's thing? Like, you move the quarterback around, you have the pass run option. Not that it's RPO. It's just like you move him out, you have 2 reads, and then they're not there. He gets around the corner and you go. When did Trey Lance ever get around the corner?
He didn't.
He can't beat NFL linebackers to the edge, and that disappointed Shanahan. So that's why he started running him inside, and this whole brouhaha. You shouldn't run him inside, and that's how he gets hurt. They didn't have better options. Like, you got to run the plays you think you're going to gain yards on, and he wasn't getting outside. I don't think he's, and as I keep saying, I don't think broken ankle is going to make him faster.
He's a pocket quarterback. He's not.
That's not what they drafted him for.
I know.
They thought they were getting Josh Allen.
Yeah, they thought they were going to get somebody who can make a lot of plays with his legs, and it was. I mean, that Arizona game, he could not get past those guys. Now those are good, fast
Simmons
players.
Is a freak athlete.
Yeah, but you know what? Guess what? NFL's got a lot of those guys.
You're right.
Roquan Smith, week 1 in Chicago, was tagging. My girl Anna doesn't know anything about football, and we're at the game and it says, she goes, "Babe, is the quarterback supposed to get hit like this?" And Roquan Smith was teeing off on him.
And Purdy has a little movement to him, by the way. Yeah. And I'm saying he's incredible, but he got around a corner a couple times. You know why? Because the defense thinks he's going to throw the ball.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were not that worried about that with Lance. So we'll see. I think Lance is a tremendous guy. I think he's high character. I think he's really smart. I think he's not going to love being the backup, but he'll deal with it. He'll be good with Brock. He might even, Brock might be hurt again, right? Guess what? Trey Lance is going to have a shot. Then at the end of next season is when you start thinking about moving Lance. But you do not move Lance this season. You go with the two. I think they need a third. I really do too. But we'll see.
And knowing this 49er tenure under Shanahan, you can make the case that in all 9 playoff games he's coached, he's had the inferior quarterback in all 9 playoff games. You can make that argument. Kirk Cousins, Dak, Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, of course, in the Super Bowl. Even Geno Smith, Brock Purdy, Geno Smith. I mean, Purdy was playing a lot better than Geno was at the time.
Geno had a great year.
Geno had a very good year. So
yeah. I mean, again, I think the feeling in the organization from when I saw executives after the Seattle game on the road, Purdy's first road game with a rib injury, they were like, "That's the guy. Wow. We got the guy." Like they weren't saying, "Oh my God, we found the guy." They're saying, "That's the guy," and they believe he's the guy.
We're going to do Fast 5 different today. I'm going to ask you 5 quick questions as short as possible so we can squeeze all these in. Give me the Fast 5 intro, Joey Spadoni.
Let's do Xfinity bubble.
Hit the read, Bonte, and then I'll
time
pepper
for the Xfinity Fast 5.
Questions.
Your last chance to get in on the Morning Roast, brought to you by Xfinity Supercharger Home with supersonic Wi-Fi, unbeatable internet only from Xfinity.
All right. Which owner is the most happy with their team right now? No explanation, just is it Jed, Larry, or Lacob?
I think it's Lacob, even with some of the stuff that we're talking about, but you got Steph Curry. What the hell are you going to do? You can't complain. 4 trophies to Steph Curry.
All right. Who do you look at as someone who inspires you in media?
Let me think here. Bill Simmons is an easy one, and sometimes he irritates me, but his dexterity to go from platform to platform, to think of things, big thoughts. He's smart. He's come up with it on his own. I'll go Bill Simmons. It's an easy one, but that's Bill Simmons.
Curry off the board. Who's the athlete you're betting on for the next 5 years in the Bay Area?
Nick Bosa is an easy one. I'll say Bosa or Purdy. Those two guys. I go one of those
Purdy.
guys. Yeah.
Who gets a stadium first? The Niners get a new one or the A's?
Maybe the Niners have to build one for the A's because it isn't going to be. I'm not going to say it isn't going to be the A's, but it is dark for the A's. I don't think the A's are going to get it done.
I don't think so either. Yeah. Last one. I want your best Ray Ratto story.
Got to be quick.
Ray Ratto story. I don't. I'm sure I've got a great one, but I can't think of it off hand. You got to warn me about these. I'll think of one next time I'm coming in. There's plenty of them. I can't imagine that I'm gonna have a bad one, but I just can't think of it right now.
We all love Ray.
Thank you so much.
We all love TK. We're gonna do this again soon. We'll make it happen. Of course, Tim Kawakami. Everybody, give him a round of applause. Came inside the studio for an hour. That was a fast hour.
Super fast. And then I'm gonna go. As much as I love 95.7 The Game, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna listen on the Athletic. He has Farhan Zaidi. I can't wait to listen to this.
Farhan Zaidi.
How many laughs from Farhan?
So he had a few. He had a few. But we had a little bit of a tense exchange too. So
good.
I love that.
It's all in there.
Good. I love that. That was the Fast 5, Xfinity Fast 5, brought to you by Xfinity Supercharger Home with supersonic Wi-Fi, unbeatable internet only from Xfinity. We're getting out of here.